Welcome back to Hopper's Hot Rods. Time to make some extra good progress on the van and wrap up a few miscellaneous details. Become embroiled in all the minutia. You're gonna love it. It'll be great. You'll see. Let's get after it. I was about to change the axle seal on the 18 van here, and I was reminded, what about the video? So all right, stop yelling at me. I'll show you how to change the axle seal. I use a crowbar, very delicate, specially designed. I actually borrowed it from the guy from Vice Grip Garage. This is the Seal Puller 9000. That's what they call it over there. And you just fit your crowbar in right here. And there's your seal. Very fine vintage. Okay, now you can see up close here, the seal is no longer in here, and you can inspect the bearings really well with the seal out of the way, and they are in great condition. The seal was just seeping a tiny bit. We're going to clean out this area here where the seal goes, and I like to use a little carburetor cleaner. And it's not necessary. This is the new seal, and it is absolutely not supposed to be necessary to use any kind of sealant, but I give it just a light glaze of RTV before I install it, just to help make everything sealed and have no leaks. It's a press fit and it shouldn't leak anyway, but it's just not gonna hurt anything either to have that little tiny extra bit of insurance. And I'm talking about just a smear glaze on here. You don't use much at all. You don't want to get them into the bearings. It's just to help fill any imperfections between the two surfaces. So really just a smear of it, you know. Okay, so when it's time to drive the seal into the axle tube, this is the seal for the other side. We're going to go ahead and, there's no point in doing just one side. They're not very expensive, and if one of them's leaking, that means the other one's about the same age and it could leak. You can rent this at O'Reilly's and then return it, so really it costs no money to get the proper tool to do this. It's just a set of aluminum pucks, basically. This one is just a little bit smaller than the seal, which is what you want. And it comes with this handle. And you slip the handle in and you snug the bolt down. And it gives you just something to drive that seal in. I'll show you right now how that works. If you've watched Hopper's Hot Rods before, you will have probably heard of Schaefer's products. Before assembling an axle tube into a seal, it's a good idea to put just a little grease on a rubber seal so it's not dry, rubbing against the axle shaft. I use this Schaefer's Synforce Green. It's waterproof, where other greases you would think should be, but they're not. And it's got molybdenum in it, so it's really good and slippery. It's just good stuff, and you don't need much, just enough to coat the rubber surface, and that'll keep everything sealed up when you get rolling. All right, we got the axle shaft. This thing is made by Yukon, and it's a, I think, 28 spline. None of that really matters to me. It's not a drag race vehicle, so a basically stock axle will do what this thing needs to do. There's the axle slid into place. I'll show you what holds it into the car so it doesn't just come sliding right back out. But first, let's go ahead and replace the seal on the other side. Okay, so here's the spacer that goes between the two axle ends so they can't travel towards each other, and allow those clips to come out like that. And this little guy here holds that in place. Like that. And then this clip holds that in place there, and that's it. That's what holds the axles in place. All right, I'm going to try to figure out how to put this spring clip in without being a danger to myself and others. I'm kind of hoping this gear will sort of hold it in place too as I attempt to flex it into place. Boy, it's tight though. Man, oh man. That is not how you do it. We'll try this. All right, try something else. Okay, sometimes you have to make a tool. Okay, now I have technically a pair of snap ring compression pliers, and let's see if it will compress it enough to sit in there. That looks pretty good. We can now put the rear end cover on, and just because I know this is completely bare metal that's been very cleaned, I think that I'm going to smear it also with some of this Schaefer's grease, just because, well, I'll show you why. The rear end cover I'm using uses an O-ring, which tells me everything that's outside of the O-ring, which is not really an O shape anymore, it's a squiggly shape all the way around. But the outer edge of this will be in contact with the oxygen and water, which means if it's rainy or snowy, that means some of that brine that they spray on there. And just to keep a big clump of rust from being created along this whole area, I'm just going to smear it with some of this waterproof grease, and it will potentially fill in some imperfections and gouges in the steel to help the rubber seal, seal. I tell you, the standard way of filling this thing with fluid and checking the fluid levels is fine, but this was provided to this build, and it's really a pretty slick piece. It covers the differential, This is the thing I was referring to as an O-ring. It's just a embossed rubber channel that will seal against this surface, so everything outside it would be exposed to oxygen, which is why I put the grease on there. But it has a drain plug with a strong magnet to catch any bits of metal that might, wear over time instead of becoming sandpaper-like and causing more erosion. And it has a dipstick that you can pull from the top to check your fluid level. Thing sounds like it's lactose intolerant. I guess I had to, but I customized this bracket that holds the brake hard line and the emergency brake cable in place so it doesn't flop around. And it's well documented that doing things that involve both creativity and logic, well, that utilizes both hemispheres of your brain. So it engages sort of the bridge between the two hemispheres of the brain called the corpus callosum. And it's healthy to do activities that engage that bridge between the two halves of the brain that way. Learning to play an instrument does that. Just listening to music does not, but learning to play music does. To the hard lines. That clip holds that in place, thusly. Okay, this is the emergency brake adjuster now. Sure, it's a little turnbuckle from Lowe's, bent over, and some cable clamps, but if I spin it one way it gets tighter, other way it gets looser, and I can adjust the emergency brakes with this. Alright, time to install the drive shafts. That's this thing here. The one end will go into the transmission, hopefully. And the other will go into the rear end. Now, I was thinking this van would make a good camper, as I've been thinking about camping quite a bit lately. And it occurred to me that the best place to go camping, especially for the first time, would be inside a Bass Pro Shop. I can't think of a better place. If anyone that works at Bass Pro Shop is listening, I beseech you to invite me to come camping in the Bass Pro Shop. I'll leave my credit card for incidentals just like you would at a hotel, you know. That way if you wanted to grab some beef jerky, you just leave a credit card. That's right, I beseech. Bass Pro Shops. I beseech you. Well, I could have a nervous breakdown, but I don't believe in shrinks. I should be drunker than a monkey, but I don't like to drink. Yeah, I don't remember the rest of that song. Oh, I'd call up some girls, but I'm afraid of the phone. I'm always talking to myself. I guess I'm never alone. John Cougar was a Mellencamp, brilliant songwriter. We made some progress here. We got the drive shaft in, emergency brake connected. All the hard brake lines are tightened up. I don't know if they're going to leak or not. The shocks are connected. The vent tube, we got lubricant in the rear end. We are technically on the precipice of making progress here. I don't want to get too excited, but all right, thanks for watching.